The Vikings keep it going after the preseason, and they are undefeated after 1 week.
And we finally got that dub when it counts. It's exciting. Can't believe we're both 1-0 to start the season. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Before we get into the recap, welcome back to another episode of the BuiBros Football Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Quinn Bowie, and I, of course, cheer for the LA Chargers. And across from me, my brother Brandon.
And I cheer for the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, and on today's episode, like you said, we're doing a recap. It's going to be really fun. We're going to be looking at how each of our teams did. And apparently they did pretty good. Enough to win. So
Apparently.
Apparently.
And at the end there, Brandon and I have talked about this. This year we wanted to do a different sort of fantasy. We love fantasy football, but we put our own little spin on it. We're going Chargers versus Vikings. Full team roster. Quarterback, running backs, wide receivers on board. We're including the kickers, including the defense and special teams as well. We're getting all the points that we can, and we'll show you how each team fared a little bit later on. But before we get into it, if you like what you're listening to, if you're a Chargers fan, a Vikings fan, an NFL fan, football fan, subscribe to the channel, like the video. It really does help us out. If you hit the notification bell, you won't miss any of this either. But Brandon, let's get into it. The Vikings dismantled the Giants. It was incredible to see. I was surprised. Of course, I was cheering for you, but surprised at how the game actually unfolded. Take us through it.
Yeah, this was like a kind of a must-win game because our schedule's so horrible. And this is such an easy opponent that we should win. But looking at the Giants' schedule, this is the same situation for them. They also really needed this win because we are on paper an easier team. And so this was it was a little stressful going up to it, and then the Vikings delivered. The offense was very, very serviceable. Like, they weren't anything crazy. Aaron Jones was super special. That was great to see. But it was the defense. The defense stopped them constantly, a lot of big stops, including, after our first drive, we had a fumble. CJ Ham fumbles the ball, gives it right back to the Giants, and the defense stops them for 3 points, which was huge. 3 of their 6 total points, so you can't really be upset about that. And then what happened? So, and then the defense also put 6 on the board.
Yeah.
Van Ginkel picks off a little screen pass, takes it in, only, 10, 15 yards, whatever it was. But that was super, super special to see. I'm sure that actually, it wasn't in Minnesota, but the building would have been fired up. I was fired up. Like, that was super, super fun to see. So,
that was a theme. And it seemed like in week 1, as it usually is, with the defense is leading the way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And to get a pick 6, man, that's also another... just another accolade to add to it. And the way you guys just ruined Daniel Jones week 1, ruined his Sunday. I read a headline earlier today. I forget which one of your players, but they actually said that they started to feel bad for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Jonathan Grenard said that. It's like, ooh, that kind of sucked. Like, that's like a nice thing for him to say, but also like a horrible thing for him to say. You know what I mean? Like, that's like next level trash talk after the fact,
Right. It's that low key, that passive aggressive trash. I was like, start to feel bad for that guy.
We feel bad for him because he sucks and we crushed him. You know what I mean? Like, ooh.
So Brian Flores is going to be going up against Brian Daboll when he finally takes over that play calling duty. Supposed to be doing something. He was somewhat, people say, revived Daniel Jones' career a couple of years ago. But now, Daniel Jones healthy. He's got that elite wide receiver there in Malik Neighbors. We talked briefly before this. One of the only players to not leave the field on offense.
Mm-hmm.
And just a total dud, and your defense really led the way.
Yeah, and like if you actually look at some of the stats, like it's pretty telling to see that the Giants' offense wasn't actually that bad. It was more so... It's possible, like, in comparison to our offense, it's more that our defense just made stops when it counted. Let's see here. So we had total yards about 330 to 230. So yes, we had 100 more yards, but you look at the third down efficiency, our 50% to their 44%, not that big of a difference. Total first down 17 to 14, not that big of a difference. The thing that is the big difference is that we got into the red zone twice and scored touchdowns twice. They must have gotten into the red zone 3 times and scored 1 field goal. So our 100% scoring efficiency in the red zone versus their 33%, that's where it counts, right? Like
big difference.
That's where it counts. That's where you get money. That's where you get the points. And if you look, our red zone plays were 6 to their 15 red zone plays. So our defense really, really held up when it counted, which was just like, and every player acknowledged that the defense led the way. Everybody acknowledged that.
Of course.
Big team win.
Like, huge props to the coaching staff,
Yeah.
Like we already talked about Brian Flores, but then Kevin O'Connell too. You said you had 6 in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
And the efficiency there, you didn't need much time. You didn't need to get to those third downs on every next opportunity. So great game planning, 3 for 3, huge efficiency in the red zone.
Yeah, it was awesome. Just looking at this, like we had 10 possessions, they had 11, and we came out 28-6. I don't know. It was just really nice to see that it wasn't another one of those Vikings games where, hey, we're supposed to win, or like we really have a good chance at winning, and then we make it really hard for ourselves. And then let's say we do come out with the win, but it's one of those one scores like, oh, I really didn't know. It could have gone either way. But this was one where it was like, for the majority of the game, we were great. And then I read a stat.
Enjoy the game. You got to just sit back and relax.
Yeah, it was good. And I saw a stat come out that this was the first 17 plus point win for the Vikings since 2019, which is a long time ago. It was like every other team had at least 4 of those wins in that time. Some teams had 10 of those wins. Like it was gross. And
every other team had at least 4 wins of 17 or more since 2019.
Yeah, and we were at 0 until Sunday. And so
whoa.
And a big thing when I saw that, and a lot of people are talking about, is that's the Kirk Cousins era. He came in 2018, and so he had that one there in 2017 or 2019, whatever it was, and then it was like nothing ever since. And not saying that that's Kirk's fault, not saying whatever. It's just like a fun correlation to make, and maybe a reason why so many fans were so frustrated with that era of the Vikings football, or of Vikings football, is because we were never comfortable. There was never a lead. There was never a game where we felt like, oh yeah, it's done. We have it in the bag. It was always, even when we were winning, there's no blowouts. There's no big, we could leave at halftime and we're good, So
yeah.
It was kind of a cool stat just to show that last era of football that we had, our last franchise quarterback, and the impact that he had on it, or the impact that had on the fan base. So it was pretty cool.
Right. It was pretty intense and heart-wrenching at some times. It's just like, some of these wins, that's what I want. I want to be one of those teams that can actually like put the pedal to the metal and just open up a can of whoop ass.
Yeah.
So like that's what a great win, but like going from one signal caller to the one you have now, who played a huge part in the game, and it was surprising to say the least, at least from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah.
Because holy moly, he's had several opportunities, and people said it. Maybe he's going to have this Baker Mayfield type resurgence. Sam Darnold. How do you like watching him play?
Sam Darnold, awesome, right? Like how good was that guy? He after Sunday, he was the highest rated PFF quarterback. PFF is, a little opinion based.
Yes, it measures very specific things.
Yes, but it was still nice to watch him, throw his first 12 passes and have them be completions. That was his own personal record. And I was watching and I was just like, I was so excited, and then I don't want to always bring up Kirk, but it was like we were watching side by side, and it was like I don't ever wish anything bad on anybody, but it was just kind of nice to see that Kirk was struggling, or it just, and obviously they're two different teams.
Was succeeding even though Kirk left.
Yes, it was. They're two different games. They're two different teams. It's nothing to do with each other, but it was still just like it was nice to see that our quarterback was succeeding. And so here are his stats. They're nothing too flashy. The 12 consecutive throws was nice. I think I'm frozen. Oh, there you go. But he's 19 of 24, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. But the interception was like he got hit on the arm as he threw. I'm not sure if the ball was tipped too.
Yeah, that was the one that went like straight up in the air.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where it's like, it happens. It sucks. Maybe he could have got it out a little bit sooner. That could have been the thing. Or, it's hard to really know exactly what happened there. But, yeah.
That first half especially, he was just precision going all the way. He was on fire.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see.
Well, he's fitting into the O'Connell offense. KOC has a good plan for him, obviously, at least in week 1. We'll see what, the Niners this week are going to have some tape, and they obviously know Sam Darnold decently well as well. And we'll see if they can repeat. You know what I mean? The Niners defense is great, but the Giants D-line, like we talked about last week, Dexter Lawrence, he blew it up.
Dexter Lawrence.
He was doing exactly what we talked about last week. He blew it up. So, and Darnold stayed calm, even like Jonathan Vilma, one of the commentators, was talking about how poised he looked, how like this, it's blowing up around him and he's stepping up and exiting the tackle box. And, it was good play from him. And he wasn't seeing ghosts, as some people may think that Sam Darnold would do. He looked good. And the line was, the O-line was serviceable, was good. And so...
But your supporting cast, this is what you see when you give Sam Darnold a great head coach, put him in a great position to succeed, and an excellent surrounding cast.
Yeah.
And another newcomer to the Vikings, who's already Vikings legend.
Already.
You're running back in
100%.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, and like you said, supporting cast, and Sam Darnold is no stranger to having an elite running back in the backfield with Christian McCaffrey. He was there. He was there.
He was there. No, for sure. But I'm pretty sure he was also. They were also there in Carolina.
That's what I meant, in Carolina. Sorry, that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Right.
And so Aaron Jones probably helped a lot with the helping keep the defense off of Darnold with pass blocking.
Take the pressure off.
And also
now you got to account for the run.
Yeah, 14 for 94 and a touchdown. Aaron Jones was a massive upgrade after the game. It's just like, how did this happen? Like he just kind of fell to us somehow from our biggest rival. And it's just kind of, that's like just an extra fun little...
The biggest rival who's the only one in your division without a win.
Ooh, without a win. And poor Jordan Love too. We should say a couple words.
Yes.
We'll
very unfortunate how that happened. And especially it was so close to the end of the game too.
So lame.
And you're in Brazil, you got to now travel home and like the whole thing. 3 to 6 weeks. Yeah. But I also read that if Jordan Love isn't cleared to play this week, Malik Willis is gonna start.
I wish we were playing. I wish we were playing them this week because I think Malik Willis is horrible, and even in those 3 plays while they're losing the game, basically just need to Hail Mary it. He looked bad. He still just looked bad. He didn't
And
pass the
now
eye
he has
test.
a week of prep. He's also got a solid head coach. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see. Neither here
Listen,
nor there, because
neither here
you're
nor there.
not
We're talking about the
playing.
Vikings.
Yeah, you're not playing the Packers next week.
Um,
But Aaron Jones, as a first game, he comes in, he crushes it. Really helps take that pressure off of Sam Darnold. And then you've also got the other guys out there wide. The guys catching all of the passes that Sam Darnold seemed to throw. And it starts with the number one wide receiver in the NFL.
yeah, and he was quite quiet. 4 for 59 and 1 touchdown. The touchdown was kind of nice. It was just a little quick slant. Actually, a nice play that I thought Darnold, like, he put it in such a good spot for such a short little. There's no error there. There's no wiggle room, and it was a nice quick slant and nice touchdown. But also on their big drive, 99 yards for the touchdown. Darnold had the big 40 some. I can't remember exactly how long the throw was. 36 maybe. Pass to Justin Jefferson. It's nice. It was nice. The pass was exactly where you needed to be. That's a classic JJ play. It was nice, and it brought the team to life, and it got them to go down, march the field, 99 yards, and score a touchdown. So that was awesome.
Yeah. Huge drive, especially in week 1. Like, what a boost to the offense, for the confidence moving forward.
It was a quiet day for the passing game, and Justin Jefferson standards, a quiet day, but you can't complain. It was a win. He was
4 for 59 and a tutty, and that's a quiet day. My goodness, that's awesome that you can say that with a straight face.
Oh yeah. Like, the touchdown's very nice, but the 4 receptions, this guy should be having 9.
Yeah,
he should be having at least like 8, 9. Like, so.
Well, they're gonna need that 8, 9 catches next week. I'll tell you that much
for sure. Yeah. Okay. I think that's my game, man. Like, so what? We were 7 in the first, 7 again in the second, 14 in the third, 0 points scored in the fourth. It's good football.
Yeah, man. There you go. And we each get the dub in the beginning. And the Chargers, on the other hand, even though we got the win, it definitely wasn't as dominant, or one-sided, I should say. Before I get into that, like what you're listening to, please subscribe to the channel. It does help us out. Lets us know you'd like talking football each and every day, week. Vikings, Chargers. We love it. Like the video. And notification bell does help us out. Chargers, here we go. We get a divisional matchup in week 1, which is another added bonus. And we beat the Raiders. The last time, the game that shall not be named, was the last Raiders taste in the mouth, and we had to get that out, and we knew Jim Harbaugh was prepping the team for this. Not only is it week 1, and 1 week at a time, 1 game at a time, but it is that extra juicy matchup with a divisional rival, which helps so much in the standings, especially later on in the tiebreaker phase. Holy. Final score 22-10. No fireworks. No fireworks on the scoreboard, at least. And when we do look at how both teams fared, fairly even in total yards, 296 for the Raiders to 316. Passing yards, Gardner Minshew threw more yards. Now, it's probably because they were playing from behind, but at the same time, Justin Herbert needs that time to get the chemistry going with that unit, because he spent some time away from the team with that plantar fascia injury that he apparently didn't have. In an interview, I forgot to tell you this, they were asking about it. He's like, oh yeah, I didn't have that, and just moved on. So I don't know where people got their information from, but he apparently didn't have a plantar fascia injury. So he needs time to gel with that unit, and we'll get to the wide receivers later. Rushing yards, though, this is where things skewed. Now, we're very excited as Chargers fans. We had 176 team rushing yards. Big game in terms of rushing, especially to the Raiders, 71. But we've had this before, right? And I want to show some careful optimism because we had the game against the Dolphins, our opener, last year, the year before, and we had like 250 plus rushing yards. It was crazy, and we're like, holy moly! We ended up losing the game, but still, a lot of great signs. So careful optimism. But we saw in this game that this is no longer the Staley era. This is no longer the Chargers of old.
Mm-hmm.
We can have that hard-fought, gritty type of win where we're going to grind it out, and we are going to make you hate us, especially at the end of the game, because you feel outmatched. You will get embarrassed. And we saw signs of that, too, from the Raider team at the end of the game. But from the offensive standpoint, not a big game. Only 11 first downs, especially in the first half. Not much going on at all. But turnovers. We did not have turnovers where they did. And that's huge for the way that Harbaugh wants to run this team. We talk about the culture that Harbaugh brings, and Harbaugh said, no. The culture was already here. The new guys, we've stepped into it. We are the lucky ones. And he's bringing the whole team together. At the end, I just have to stop and talk about the locker room speech. They give the game balls out, and the Spanos family gives game balls to Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz, our GM. And Harbaugh gets his ball. He's so excited. He's like, really? And then he's just raging, just so happy, so pumped, and he gets the whole team just rallying around him. It was the best sight to see. Everybody is buying into this way. The culture is here. It has been here, and it really shows. And where I think it reflects is where the power rankings are this week. Something superlative. But I like reading into it, and the highest that we got to is number 9 in the league by the Athletic with Josh Kendall there. Pretty high. I'd have to see the whole list to kind of shuffle things around. But then we go 10, 11, 12. We're kind of in this range, and then we on the later side. Oh my goodness, we get down to 25. From Fox Sports, David Hellman. What a bum that David Hellman guy is. With all due respect.
Is there an average?
25.
Yeah, that's 25. Low, man. That's
low. Is this some fluky win? But so interesting to see. There is some respect that's coming to the Chargers now, but not unwarranted. Not the preseason hype. Like, holy, okay, Harbaugh's actually making impact here. But there are areas where we can improve. I've already spoken briefly on the offense. Herbert, his stats for the game, not eye-popping. 17 for 26, 144, and a touchdown. He was smart. He managed the game well, and he made big throws when it happened, or when it needed to happen. And Harbaugh loved the game from Herbert. Harbaugh loves Herbert so much. I don't think Herbert could do anything wrong, but he loved the game from Herbert because there were no mistakes, there's no turnovers, and he made sure that the team continued to move the ball down the field when it was needed. So those numbers, I don't expect him. He's not going to be at that 300 plus every week because that's just not the type of game that Harbaugh wants to play. He will get there sometimes, especially when it's a little bit more of a competitive game. We've got one up at least in a couple of weeks here with the Chiefs, which is going to be crazy. Big test coming up. Well, we will see improvement. It is Justin Herbert, without a doubt, top 5 QB in the league. Moving on, the running backs. Now, Greg Roman, G-Ro, offensive coordinator for the Chargers, said that, it's a 1A, 1B type of situation with the running back room. And he's going to ultimately ride the hot hand. This game, we saw with the hot hand, who had the hot hand, and let's see if that continues going forward. But both backs ultimately split the carries very evenly. Gus Edwards got the start. He got 11 carries for 26 yards. 2.4 average. Not the best. But the type of player that Gus Edwards is. You know, he's going to pop off some. He's going to wear you down. He's that bowling ball type. He's much that goal line back.
Yeah.
Or so we think, because in this game, actually, J.K. Dobbins got a lot of that short yard opportunity as well. And speaking of him, 10 carries. So one less carry than Gus Edwards, but 135 yards. 13.5 yard carry. This guy has had like his career average of carries is above 6.5, I believe.
Crazy.
Because he's been injured for so much, but when he's played, he's had these huge performances, and he had huge runs to in this game, and he also capped it off. There's a 12-yard touchdown in there as well. So great to see him healthy, but he slowed down. He had 2 big runs. We were watching, and you're saying the team's gonna laugh at him for it, and they did. He even brought it up. He's like, "Holy, I thought I was in shape, but I am not in shape. I was gone like 40 yards, and I'm like, okay, nope, okay, cover the ball, just make sure that I protect it and go down." But still, you know, to the fact that he had 2 runs that he could have broken off for huge touchdowns. Yeah. You see the vision, you see the burst, the patience in the way that J.K. Dobbins runs. And I don't care about the age. He has 0 tread on the tire. Think Raheem Mostert, right? He never really got that opportunity for whatever reason back in the day. And now he has, and he's done extremely well. So I that's kind of where, that's my benchmark for J.K. Dobbins, a younger, faster version. And that's a huge thing. Well, I have to check the 40 yards stat on that to see both running backs. That'd be interesting.
On like Mostert, you mean, or on the?
Yeah, Mostert and J.K. Dobbins.
Mostert had a decent little early career with the Niners, right? Like he had that.
He was always a rotational player, though.
Yeah, except
he
for
was never the starter.
He had like 200 yards against Green Bay in the playoffs. 200
like he's had
3
some
touchdowns,
monster games, but it always seemed like there was somebody ahead of him in the pecking order, and that's why he doesn't have much tread on the tires, right? Mm-hmm. Like him and Derrick Henry, I want to say, are very similar in age, especially for running backs. Yeah. And Derrick Henry, way more carries, way more.
Way more.
Yeah. So our rushing game. Great. Mm-hmm. Great progress. And, you know, that's obviously because our O-line had a big part to do with that. And another point that I want to bring up is rookie right tackle Joe Alt had himself a day. On the day, 1 pressure allowed. Not too shabby in that regard. But where it most counted was against one-on-one matchups with a beast in Max Crosby. We talked about it last week, and that D-line is crazy. Going to be a huge welcome to the NFL moment. And I believe there were 11 plays where one-on-one action, Crosby against Joe Alt. 0 pressures allowed. Brandon, I know you've already heard that from me because we got the group chat going on, and I had to send that picture of Joe Alt carrying his little boy Max Crosby on his shoulder.
That's impressive.
It's great. What a debut by Joe Alt, and that whole offensive line in the beginning needed a little bit of time to kind of mesh, and it got better in the second half. There's still room for improvement. Especially over there at that left guard position with Zion Johnson, former first-round pick. High hopes for him, but just needed time together. Now, it's probably Rashawn was out for a period of time during training camp, and so they haven't really had a moment or enough time, I'll say. Going forward, especially next week, I think that'll be a huge get-right game for all aspects that didn't do as well this week, and I think it's just going to be a roll fest against the Carolina Panthers, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Let's go to the receiving. Now, presumed wide receiver 1, Joshua Palmer. Canadian! Now, he didn't really show up. He really didn't show up. There are a couple moments where I didn't even realize he was on the field, and he was, but he ended up the day with 2 receptions for 15 yards and an ejection.
Oh, what?
He got ejected at the end of the game where the Chargers scored the touchdown. They were going for a 2-point conversion, and Gus Edwards got the ball, ran up, and Josh Palmer was blocking, and he went and double teamed to block. Raiders didn't like it, too aggressive. I believe it was Jack Jones, that their corner, that him and Josh Palmer were just at it. Quentin Johnson came in to protect Josh Palmer, and then Max Crosby came and grabbed Quentin Johnson, threw him to the ground. It's like, God. But so they got ejected, the initial 2, which I thought was a little bit wild. I watched that back a little bit, and from what I can see, Joshua Palmer is just trying to throw this guy off him. I don't care how aggressive the block is. This is what Harbaugh is coaching. You leave nothing behind. Yeah. You go full force and you let them have it. But you also have to control the emotions when you need to as well. So that'll be a learning moment. But he didn't show up in the stat sheet. He got ejected, and Quentin Johnston had a little bit more flash in his game. He had a big catch and run earlier on, but rookie Ladd McConkey, number 15. Now, we're not going to have huge yardage numbers here, but 5 receptions, 39 yards, and that aforementioned late touchdown, which was nice to see. They tried getting Ladd the ball early and often, and it worked out. This guy is only going to get better from here, but he's going to be the best friend of Justin Herbert when they need the short yardage 3rd down conversion, great route running ability. He's hopefully going to fill, like people have said, that Keenan Allen role. Yes, they're huge shoes to fill, and it's going to take time, but if we can get another one of those guys, that's going to be huge for Justin Herbert, huge for this offense and the team moving forward.
Yeah.
So all in all...
Sorry, I was going to say, I'd like to see, in a future game where there's more passing yards, I'd like to see how that split kind of shakes up,
Yes, absolutely. And I'm gonna go to week 4 and say Kansas City's gonna be that game, because we have the Carolina Panthers next week, and then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers after that. So that's it. We just saw what their defense did to Kirk Cousins. You just mentioned it, right? Yeah. Like TJ Watt blew that entire lineup by himself.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be. I don't think that's gonna be high scoring. But then you get to the Chiefs. This is where we're going to probably have to pass a little bit more. And so, like you said, it'd be interesting to see what that split is. But all in all, for the Chargers, some signs of light, good things there, but there's definitely room for improvement. And I think next week, Harbaugh says, and this is interesting, and I'm really curious to learn more about this, but he said there is no week-to-week difference, jump in your production, your understanding of our systems, than 1 to 2. The biggest jump in how the season is going to go happens from week 1 to 2. And I'm curious as to why he believes that. But that only, to me, that just builds the excitement. It's like, this is the week we can show who we are going forward. And we're going against the Carolina Panthers. So let's go. Harbaugh's not going to let up. Let's absolutely dominate them. 47 points that the Saints put on them, that's a tall order to fill. But 30-plus points, I think is absolutely doable with bold prediction. Each phase of the game will score a touchdown for the LA Chargers. That's nice. My bold prediction.
Nice.
For next week. Pretty sweet.
But
let's move on to the defense. Now, the defense looked good. Defense looked good for several turnovers, multiple forced fumbles, multiple sacks by the duo that we've all been waiting to see finally together. Now, I know we've had a couple of games where that's happened, but we really, in the last 2 years that Khalil Mack has been on the team, they really haven't had much of an opportunity to be on the field together and show what those edge rushers can be as a 1-2 punch. And we saw it. We saw it on Sunday, and there was a sequence of plays where it really showcased. It was back-to-back Mac to Bosa sacks. Back-to-back plays. It was incredible. Bosa was flying out there. Mm-hmm. I was thoroughly impressed. Chargers fans have been a little bit disappointed with how he's been, especially because he's been injured a lot of the time. And everybody says the best ability is availability, and he hasn't been available. When he's healthy, we just saw what the heck can happen in a system, on a team that he believes in, and playing across Khalil Mack. Incredible. So Joey Bosa, 6 tackles and 1 sack there. He was a part of the forced fumble as well. Derwin, 6 tackles as well. Asante, 5 going to him. And then we get down to Khalil Mack. 1.5 sacks for Khalil Mack. He scooped up a fumble. I believe he forced a fumble as well. He was trying to get the ball and run to get a touchdown. He didn't realize there were 2 guys there. It was a crazy sequence, but it was great to see our line rush, and obviously that has to do not only with the slow progression that offenses have in week 1, but have to give out our shout to our secondary as well. Didn't let up any big plays in the passing game. Davante Adams got a few, but what was his stat line at the end of the game? It wasn't anything Davante Adams likes. 5 for 59, 11.8 per. Not bad, but not how he's torched us in the past.
Yeah.
As we mentioned. So great showing by our defense. I know it's only going to improve, and the way these guys coach, it's going to improve next week. They're not going to play down to their opponent like they have before in the past. They're going to go out there and they're going to throttle the Carolina Panthers, build the momentum.
Come out 2-0.
Now, 2-0. And that's what at the end of the locker room speech, you can't get to 2-0 without being 1-0. Mm-hmm. And we have it, and oh my goodness. But before I get to the final point about the Chargers, we have to touch on special teams. Do you like my Cameron Dicker is a name of my fantasy football team. But I've said it. We've all seen it. It's not just me, but we've all seen it. Him through training camp. Perfect. This guy is the real deal. We rewarded him with a 4-year contract. I'm happy that we have a kicker. We've had so many kicker woes in the past. We finally have a kicker. And he was absolutely lights out in the game as well. He was 3 for 3, long 53. Like he made all of his kicks. He did everything he needed to do. And he's going to continue to do that.
Yeah,
I'd be curious. Everything you ask for. He can make the 50 plus. He may not be up there with the 60 pluses, the Justin Tuckers, the Brandon Aubreys of the world, but we don't need that. That's insane. We're only now delving into the possibility of a 71-yard field goal, which I'm pissed at Mike McCarthy for not actually going for it in the game. But Cameron Dicker, he did fantastic. And then J.K. Scott does his thing as he does. He's very much that high hang time and let the players go and recover. 47.4 average on 7 punts. Way too many punts. I need his stats to be an average of 1 going forward. Chargers 22-10. Sweet victory against divisional rival. We're both 1-0, Brandon. It's fantastic. I'm excited. On to next week, and we'll get to that matchup analysis next time. But if you're with us, thank you so much. Week 1's in the books. Brand, what? Oh, I forgot.
You even teased it earlier. You teased it. Okay? Don't let Quinn fool you. We do have our fun little season-long boom fantasy between the Chargers and the Vikings.
Because I didn't want to see it. Brandon. So yes, we have our team by team fantasy football here. What we've got going on, Brandon and I have a season-long bet. Super Bowl. Whoever's team in the regular season puts up the most fantasy football points wins. The loser has to go and cook a victory brisket for the winner. Now it's going quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, and defense special teams. All of the players all in. Let's say your backup quarterback throws a pass on a fake punt. Those stats still go in here, but for the majority, it's going to be our starting QBs. The running backs and wide receivers, we're including everybody on the roster. Same thing, tight ends, obviously kicker and defense. They do their own thing. It is a full PPR, 6-point passing touchdown league, and that's how we calculate after week 1. Of course, with your dismantling of the Giants. Vikings, you guys sit at 113.22 to my 98.86.
Woo!
Not too bad. I think we can catch up going forward, especially with those running backs. You know, maybe if we had the bonuses, those big play bonuses, maybe I'd be able to catch up. I don't know.
The Minnesota Vikings take a 1-0 lead here, right?
Yes, a 1-0 lead. Now we're not counting that. We're not doing like how many weeks did you win by the end.
We're just doing total points.
We're doing total points.
Oh, I'm gonna crush you. I'm already. What is this? 25 points ahead? No wait.
Yeah.
15 points ahead.
No. Cumulative points. Okay, because it's season long, and let's see what each team does and how they would ultimately help your fantasy team. Who's better? Who's the better resource? LA Chargers, Minnesota Vikings. Let us know in the channel. And thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. If you like what you listen to, please subscribe to the channel, as it does help us out. Like the video. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything of the sorts. It's the regular season recaps, next week analysis. We've got all of it, fantasy football. Oh my goodness. I'm excited. 1 in the books. Brandon, send us off.
Okay, everybody. Remember, the Minnesota Vikings are up by 15 points on the LA Chargers, but Skol Bolts!
Skol Bolts!
Peace.
Please subscribe to the channel.